This is episode 107 of Off Script with Trish Glose, intimate interviews with interesting people. Joining me via Skype today, all across the country, I have Julie Grauert. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Trish. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you, too. We actually met in Las Vegas. We were there because we were both in news. You were no longer in news, which we will talk about, but we were there for the MDA telethon. Was it like a training weekend?
Yes. And yeah, it wasn't for a bachelorette party or anything too wild and crazy, even though I feel like we kind of took it there.
We did.
Maybe.
We totally
so that
did.
Was years ago.
Yeah, that was.
But it was great. It
was super fun. We actually went to. Do you remember going to the top of Paris Hotel, that bar up there, in the Eiffel Tower? Maybe not.
I feel like we were probably having a lot of fun. Memory is a little. I know there are photos that exist somewhere. We went to the top of the Eiffel Tower?
We did, and we had their signature drink up there, which is this like Prosecco fruit, gorgeous like berry drink.
Yes. Yes, it's coming back to me. Yes, and we had another girl with us, right? We made some other friends?
Oh yeah, we made lots of friends, yeah.
But I don't remember any.
We were making friends everywhere we went. It was a great weekend. We were there to learn all about MDA. Remember we saw, who was the famous guy we saw besides Jerry Lewis?
Was he supposed to be there?
He was sitting right. His name is escaping me, and I will figure it out later. But we were all aflutter because there was some. Yeah, he was supposed to be there at the telethon. He was hanging out with Jerry Lewis at the telethon.
We must have had too much fun.
Okay.
Or maybe it wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't famous enough for it to like go in my library of memories.
It will occur to me probably halfway through this interview, and I'll just shout it out randomly. So that'll be fun. All right, Julie, let's start from the beginning. Well, first of all, I should tell everybody who you are. I got this from your Instagram account. Retired news anchor, stay-at-home dog mom, which I love, passionate advocate for curing spinal cord injury. So really interesting to me. We're going to talk a lot about all three of those things, but I want to get to the beginning. Where are you from originally?
Originally from Lake Oswego, Oregon, which I can say because you guys down in Medford know, Oregon people know Oregon people. Mm-hmm. So born and raised there. My parents are still in the house we grew up in, and went to Jesuit high school, and then ventured out back east to Georgetown, where I played volleyball for a couple of years and started to fall in love with broadcast journalism.
Right. You actually, and that's where you went to school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you go there because of journalism, or did journalism take you there?
I wanted to be a pediatric oncologist, and so took a little detour. I volunteered at Dornbecker Children's Hospital in Portland and loved it, and then got into Georgetown and was in calculus and couldn't take my pre-med classes because of my volleyball practices, and then realized I'm not nearly smart enough to be a doctor. And so I was like, I'll do TV. Maybe that can work. But actually, I saw a poster up in our dorm that said, make your parents proud, run a TV station before you're 18.
And that was it.
And I'm the oldest of four. I live proud. And so I was like, oh, I'll do that. So I got involved with our little tiny on-campus TV station. And then unfortunately, 9/11 happened. So you're thrown into one of the very worst times in history of the world. And I remember thinking, I don't want to race home and hunker down in my house. I want to be here in DC and be able to be a voice box and a conduit to get the information to family and friends and loved ones. And so that's originally what sparked my interest in news. And then it continued to grow over the years in DC and with following internships in different cities.
Awesome. I bet that really did spark a whole lot for you. What was it like growing up in Lake Oswego? You have a big family.
We do, yes. Like I mentioned, I'm the oldest of four, and it was great. I have two awesome parents. I got so lucky with being born into that family, and I feel really fortunate. It's a ton of fun, but strict. Like you got to get good grades, and then you could play your sports. But very busy, active lifestyle growing up, and all four of us played sports. All four of us went through Jesuit. And so it was fun to kind of see the siblings all go through, and everybody knew the same teachers. And I have very fond memories of growing up there. But I knew when I left for Georgetown that I never wanted to go back to Portland. I was like, did it, been there, done that, ready for something new, ready for the East Coast. And then it was only after starting in Rapid City, South Dakota, my very first TV job, Market 175, that I was like, oh, Portland is like Paris. Like our Paris Eiffel Tower hotel bar that we went to.
Yeah.
If I could get back to Portland, that would be fabulous. So after a year in Rapid City, South Dakota, I got a job, and that's how you and I ended up meeting.
Yeah, and you got a job KGW?
At KPTV.
Oh, that's right. That's the Fox affiliate, I believe.
The Fox affiliate. Yep.
What was that like?
So after first denying Portland altogether, like I'm never going back, to then having the change of heart. And I've learned over the years that anytime you say I'm never doing anything, it's going to happen 100%. Like I didn't even like dogs. And now I'm one of those weirdos that takes like 50 pictures of their dog every day. Same dog.
Yeah.
Same poses, same smiles. So when I got back to Portland, it actually was the greatest gift because my sister was still in high school, my youngest sister. My parents were there. My childhood friends were there, and they were starting families and getting married. So I really got to stay a lot more connected than I did when I was on the East Coast. And then, as you know, and I'm not sure where your family is, but if you work in TV, that's not a normal life. You work holidays. There is no such thing as being able to really be there because you're always on call. So being in Portland allowed me to be at every Christmas.
Oh, that's great.
I had full makeup on because I just came from work, but it allowed me to be there for birthdays. It allowed me to be there for all of these things that in later years after I left to go work on the East Coast, I was just impossible.
Yeah, especially
so
when
it was really cool. Plus,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, when you're the new kid at a new station, you don't, it's like, you can't have Christmas off, you fool.
Oh, yeah, never. Don't even try to ask. It's insulting to even request Christmas or any sort of holiday off. But it was fun because my mom, of course, would watch. And so I'd get a text after the A block, like, don't love the necklace. So commercial break, necklace off. Next block, no necklace.
I love that.
So, and then like the most fashionable person. So I did have a couple pieces from my high school days, like button ups, like just kind of classic pieces. And I would wear them. And my friends from high school would be like, honestly, you're like 25, 26. You can get some new clothes. Like we saw that sophomore year. So that was really, really fun. And nothing that I expected when I got to go work back in Portland.
Yeah, for sure. And that's great. I think that's the biggest kind of wake up call when you're starting out in this business and you're in a, it's your first job and you realize, I remember we hired a producer and Memorial Day was coming up and he's like, so do we get Memorial Day off? And I was like, oh, sweetie, no, you don't get any days off.
Bless your heart.
Yeah.
But no. And let's all bring in snacks and have a food summit because we're going to be here forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In fact, Thanksgiving, I remember doing Thanksgiving with my coworkers when I was, in my 20s because you ain't going home. So.
Oh, totally. And it does bring a closeness among your coworkers because you're all in it together. And so, of course, besides missing the holidays, you're dealing with really difficult subject matters in the news in general. So it lends itself to a bond that other industries and careers might not have otherwise. But you definitely need to expect to not be going home for anything.
I think it's great. It really does make you appreciate that time that you can have off with your family or go travel and be with your family for sure.
You are so much more present. And I've learned that after missing, because I was on the East Coast working in New York and Boston for a total of almost 6 years and didn't make it home for 5 of those Christmases. And when you're in the thick of it and like really in the trenches doing it, you don't realize what you're missing, but you're close with your family, even if you're not close with your family, if you have dear friends, it just allows you to be more present when you realize that you could not have it.
Okay, so what came after Portland then? Were you looking, as a lot of us do in this business, we're just trying to get to that next job, except for me. Were you,
Yeah, you found your spot.
I did. Were you looking to just like, I want to get in a bigger market, I want to do bigger things? Like, how did that happen?
I fell in love with New York City when I was 18 years old. We went there to play Seton Hall, and I'd never been there before. And I was like, this is my city. I should have grown up here. I can never, ever not live here. How dare my parents deprive me of the grit of New York City? And I fell madly in love. Like, it was a person. I fell madly in love. And we weren't there living it up. Like, we went and got pizza and then went and played our games. So I can say this now because the days are long gone, but every password since then was New York by 30. I must have typed it for 10 years because that's like, when I turn 30, I will be moving to New York and I will be a journalist there. That is my heart and soul and my goal, period.
And it happened.
So I turned 30 and my contract was up in February. So I went to them at the end of the year and I said, I love you guys. Thank you for letting me grow up here at KPTV. I adored my coworkers. I had the cushion, like the best schedule. I anchored the 8 o'clock news. I got to report in the early shows, got to pitch my own stories. And I was like, I'm 30 and this is my dream and this is what I'm doing. So they said, okay, congratulations and good luck. So I packed, I was 30 years old with about 7 or 8 years experience in TV, which is not that much for New York. And packed 2 suits, didn't have a job, didn't have a place to live, stayed at the YMCA for a couple nights, crashed in a friend's hotel room, crashed in another friend's apartment on their couch, and then found a 154 square foot apartment. It was 11 by 14. And the bathroom had half a mini tub. The floor had settled in the wrong direction, so the water didn't drain in the tub. It was the coolest, best apartment on planet Earth. It was $1,800 a month for 154 square feet. And I was like, I'll take it, because I had lived at home for 9 months prior to save up. So I had a little bit of money saved, and living at home was its own challenge. But got out and then just started knocking on doors and trying to get jobs, and got my first job within about 2 weeks. Was hired freelance to report at the Fox affiliate, Fox 5. And mind you, I had been an anchor predominantly leading up to that. So what they didn't know is that my field reporting was not as strong, and I definitely wasn't as confident in that. So I kind of learned how to report in New York City.
Wow.
I didn't recommend that. And I distinctly remember I was in Bedford-Stuyvesant, which is in the boroughs in Brooklyn, and I didn't know how to pronounce it. And it was an easy VOSOT that I was fronting. And I was so nervous about saying live from Bedford-Stuyvesant that I forgot my name.
No.
And I had been there freelancing for a week or something. And I was like, reporting live from Bedford-Stuyvesant, Julie Grauert, Fox 5 News.
It happens.
And oh my God. And so then they pop the anchors up, and I get my phone. It's the assistant news director. He's like, how are you? Tell me there was a car crash in front of you. You forgot your name. This is market 1. Your career could be over. You don't forget your name in market number 1. And I was like, I was so mortified. And my sweet, sweet photographer at the time, I started crying in the live truck, cried the whole way home. And then one of the seasoned reporters walked me to the subway. He's like, it's okay. And so people were wonderfully kind there, but it was like, oh, really scary.
Yeah.
And then about a week later, a friend from an internship several years prior worked at WPIX, Pix 11, and they're like, we need a traffic reporter. I was like, I just moved here. I only know Broadway. I don't know if that would be a fit. And she's like, no, that'd be great. You have a producer. They write your scripts. And I was like, okay. So I went in and met with the news director, and they hired me as the traffic.
That's amazing.
It was like mind blowing. So all of a sudden it's like my life goes from like stressed out reporting, like forgetting my name, to I did have a producer. She even clicked through my traffic for me. She became one of my closest friends in the whole wide world.
Wow.
She built my maps. She wrote my script in prompter. I had a car service pick me up at 2 a.m., drop me off, hair and makeup,
What?
do the show. It was like so mind blowing. And then I'm off at 10 a.m. like, hey, New York City. So I saw 54 Broadway shows in 52 weeks and like just like soaked up every single ounce
That's
that
amazing.
the city had to give.
That's amazing, Julie.
It was wild. And then, but 6 months into that traffic, and then I got to pitch stories that I really loved, and they give me time to do them. So like some of my career were there. And then 6 months in, they're like, you know what? You're not New York enough for us. So we're letting you go in 6 months.
Ouch.
So I was like, I'm not New York enough. Like I moved here with a suitcase. Isn't that the epitome of New York? You move, like everyone moves there wanting to be someone and something. And they're like, no, you're just not doing it for us. And so then I was like, okay, I guess I'll start looking for a job. So then I had 6 months, like knowing I wasn't wanted, but still working. And so I wasn't in the promos. I wasn't on the website. They didn't like, it was very strange being in a city you love for something you worked so hard for and being completely ignored and kind of pushed to the side.
Did that crush you a little bit?
Destroyed me.
Oh.
Absolutely ripped my heart out. And the meteorologist at the time, who had been there for many years, she's a legend, tired now. She told me once, she was like, never fall in love with TV because it will never love you back. And that stuck with me because I was in love with TV. I was like, I loved this. I loved getting to know people. I loved telling stories. I loved connecting. And it didn't matter at the end of the day to this station. So it broke my heart. And then like they were bringing in people to audition for my job while I was there.
Ouch.
In front of me. And so then I'm looking for other jobs, and my last day was May 6th, and it was in the beginning of April when Rob, my boyfriend of the last 6 years, was there for an interview to talk about what he does with his life, which is his involvement with the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. So I met him right before I finished working at Pix, and then I had about 5 months where I was unemployed, like trying to look for jobs. I was nannying for a friend, but we had 5 months to fall in love in New York City. So
hey, that's not so bad. I want to go back because the fact that your password was New York City by 30, that's legit putting it out there in the universe, right? I've heard 1,000 times, if you put it out in the universe, it could happen, right? So you kind of repeat this thing that really means a lot to you, New York by 30, New York by 30. Every time you type in your password, that's what it is, and that's what happened. I believe I remember you posted a picture on social. It was like a drawing of a girl with a suitcase. It's like Times Square.
Yes. Oh my, you have an amazing memory. Yeah.
Well, because it stuck with me because that made me, I don't know if envious is the right word, but I was just looking at that going, dang, she did it. Like she did it. She went for it. And a lot of us out there don't have the courage to just go for it like that. Ballsy.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, maybe a little naive and a little just ignorance is bliss and going, but I would hope that anyone who like feels this deep, deep connection and calling to do something will do it.
Yeah.
And what I'm in now is, as I transitioned from that, like like for 10 years, not 10, yeah, I guess I was 18. So until I was 30, almost 12 years that I wrote that to log into everything. And then it started to shift and kind of crumble, and the love started to dissipate. And the rose-colored glasses came off. And so it's strange. And I bet it did look, because I remember seeing pictures of people in New York, like, oh my gosh, they did it. Like, I'm going to do it. And it's great feeling and connection to this is what I'm going to do. It is much harder, I think, to not have that.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, so like, what is next? What do I love? What is calling me to be the best at? And because I'm slowly, as my career continued, I kind of just became a little bit more disconnected with the love of
how can you not? Would you do it over again?
Oh, I would. I loved doing what I did. I feel so fulfilled. I feel so grateful and met wonderful people and got to cover fascinating stories. And so if someone said, I want to be a journalist, I wouldn't say, don't do it. I would say, absolutely do it, embrace it, go for it. And say yes to everything and work every holiday. And
yeah. 100%. So
it will be a reward.
Yeah, so you're unemployed, but you do get another news job, right?
So I am, yeah. So I'm looking for jobs. Several months pass, and finally get a job at New York One. And New York One, for people who aren't familiar with the stations in New York, is their 24-hour, like, the quintessential New Yorkers watch New York One. It's no fluff, it's no makeup, it's no fanciness. It's what's in like every show about New York ever.
Yeah.
New York One is always on in the background, and like Pat Kiernan is the guy who's always on in the background. And that was also one of the greatest parts of my career because and most fulfilling and rewarding, because they hired me as a reporter. And at New York One, you one-man band with a photographer who usually has just graduated from college. So they're like early 20s.
Wow.
And like fancy pants, traffic, car service, to like, you better get your backpack and get that shot up, and you better like go. You've got to do everything, like back to market 175 Rapid City, when it's you're doing it all yourself. All you, and then your photographer, which wasn't called a photographer, they were called something else, like a multimedia specialist. And they were all wonderful and awesome and so hardworking, but it's very, very different than the union guys who've been photographers for 25 years and working in New York and like know everything. Because it's super intimidating to work with those journalists in New York, because they like know their stuff and they don't forget their name. And so that was at the time the Black Lives Matter back with Eric Gardner. And so I became, for the first time ever, I was never taken seriously as a journalist because I was always an anchor, like in studio, you don't really know what's going on. So there you go, you're going to be our protest girl. So I got to cover all the protests, like in the thick of it, walking with the thousands of people in Manhattan. And it was incredible. It was like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is fulfilling for me. Unfortunately, bills got to be paid. And being unemployed in New York for 5 months gets those credit card bills a little bit high.
A little bit.
So just freelancing there, I couldn't pay the bills. And so it was incredibly rewarding and fulfilling to feel like a real live serious grown-up journalist.
Yeah. And
then Boston called with another traffic anchor job.
Okay.
And just like out of the blue, the new news director was like, went into YouTube and said traffic anchors. And
you popped up?
A creepy guy. A creepy guy in all of our clips and like put all the ladies together on YouTube. He found those clips that this creepy stalker guy would put up. And he was like, I'm not trying to be creepy, but I did find your clips. And that was like a contract with health benefits. And so
yay.
And Boston's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love the news director. And I mean, it was a fit as well, but I cry. Like, I was never leaving New York. And Rob was the same way. He loves New York, even though he was born and raised in Beaverton, about 7 miles away. We didn't know each other at the time, but we were never leaving New York. We were going to live here forever. This is going to be our life. And then I ended up taking the job in Boston, and I cried the entire drive up there. I cried every week for a year. Like, it was just my heart. And like that city, I'm going to get emotional just talking about it now. That city is like a person to me. So I don't know if other people have places that they connect with but it just makes me feel alive and feel connected and feel like anything is possible. So
Yeah.
I headed up to Boston then.
Well, and the beauty is it's still there. Your love affair
Mhm.
with New York City can continue. Yeah.
I haven't really, I guess I haven't thought about it like that. So thank you for reminding me of that.
You're welcome. Well, I don't know if you're a Sex and the City fan.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Carrie Bradshaw, there's a whole episode about her love affair with the city and how it's good to her and then nasty to her at the same time, but she'll always be in love with this city. So, the love affair can go on.
It can, and it thankfully does now with the marathon. And that's where I have found my new calling is in running the marathon, because I didn't run it until after I had moved away, but I cheered for it for years and years when I was there, and fundraising for the Reeve Foundation and running it. And it is my account. I'm sad it's only 26.2 miles. Like, I wish it could be longer, because it is just you feel like Beyonce. There's a million people cheering for you. And your name is on your jersey, so they're saying your name.
That's amazing.
And it's day on planet Earth. And if anyone's ever thought about doing a marathon, unfortunately, we can't do it this year because of COVID, which is the smartest decision they could make. But do it.
Yeah. Before we get into some of that stuff, I want to get back to the creepy guy who put all the clips up really, really briefly, because I don't think people really truly understand the amount of trolls that exist on this planet when it comes to news journalists, news people on TV, especially women.
Oh, is there must be an Instagram page dedicated to it somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's stop, and there's a million ways for them to contact you, be it handwritten letters, gifts to the station, or social. And then if you're out on live shots or remotes, you have to sometimes have security. It's I don't know if I'm trying to remember back in the day when, like 10 or 15 years ago, it didn't seem as extreme, but it's definitely something that you have to be wary of.
Yeah, I've been asked for
I've
been asked for requests to take pictures of my feet and send it to some creepy dude in, like, I think Iowa, maybe, I don't know. Like, it's weird.
Did he say it was for a fundraiser too?
Well, probably.
Where it's like, please, I'm raising money for send me your old shoes and sign them. Somebody said he wanted to carry me through mud puddles. Another guy wanted to hug my ponytail.
Ugh. Ooh.
Those are like trolls, and then you have the viewers who can be a little bit cruel too, with judgment about looks and size and wardrobe, and I definitely like that really started to wear on me.
Oh, I'm sure
as well.
I'm probably a weirdo, but I keep, there's some negative emails that I get. I keep them just because I feel like if you're getting a little too big for your britches, it's like the negative emails like, no, you're not all that great. This lady thinks you're a little chunker on the set. You know what I mean? Like, they kind of ground you a little bit.
Yeah, they do. It's like the days you're feeling really good, and you can just leave it up. But then people are also very wonderful and kind, and so it goes both ways. But the amount of trolls that exist now, they keep popping up everywhere.
Yeah, it's true. So you're in Boston, you're working there in TV, and you're with your honey, Rob Summers.
Yes.
Tell me about this, I guess, this transition where you're like, you know what, I'm ready to get out of news. Were you liking the job? Was it fulfilling you in a way that you wanted it to?
So I loved my coworkers at my station, and I started in traffic there and was doing traffic for I think about 6 months, and then was promoted. And so then I was traffic and anchoring. So that was cool. I got to do both, and I was learning a ton, because now actually I was doing the traffic. Like I didn't have a producer who was doing it all. I did it first, but then they phased him out. So then it was all on me to collect the information and build the maps and ad lib through it. And there were hits every couple minutes. And my meteorologist became one of my dearest friends in the whole wide world. And so it was a great community. And so while I was doing the anchoring traffic, I was, feeling good. And then in 2017, I did the marathon for the first time to fundraise for the Reeve Foundation and the New York Marathon. And that is when really everything shifted and changed for me. Is we ended up raising, so you have to raise $4,000 to run for Team Reeve. And I was like, I don't know if people know this, Rob is paralyzed.
Okay.
That's why I run for the Reeve Foundation. He is a C6 quadriplegic who had an experimental surgery 10 years ago and regained a lot of function. So he has this incredible story, and we are very passionate about curing spinal cord injury because we've seen how the foundation has changed his life, given him a lot more independence and confidence, freedom, and function back. So we were fundraising for the Reeve Foundation, and I was like, $4,000. That's a lot to ask.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot. If I can do it, I don't want to inconvenience the viewers. I don't want to pander to them. So on I think it must have been the 10th anniversary, maybe the 10th or 11th anniversary of his injury.
Okay.
I posted something saying, I've decided to run the marathon. This is why. And overnight, we raised like $3,000. And I went in from viewers, majority strangers. And I got into work the next day, and there was a picture of me that I posted that's like me sitting at my computer that my friend took, and I'm just crying because I had never experienced this level of generosity from complete strangers. And then we were like, oh my gosh, we raised like the 4,000 so fast, let's increase it. So we tried to raise 11, and then Rob decided to hand cycle it. So we held a fundraiser. And then we raised another 5. So we ended up raising 30 that year. And when I ran the race and knowing that Rob was ahead of me on the hand cycle, and the whole experience of connecting with people through paralysis and through the greater good for trying to raise money for research, really made me feel like my day-to-day delivering a lot of bad news, and then traffic just I wasn't being as impactful as I could be. So that very, very positive marathon experience also led to this kind of breaking open of my heart a little bit for something completely different. And then it was after that I was like, wow, I really got a lot out of this. I really connected with a lot of people that I never thought I would, in a way that I didn't as a journalist, like almost on a more humane.
Yeah, that gives me goosebumps.
We pride ourselves in.
That gave me goosebumps, Julie. Seriously.
Oh. Well, I don't know if that's good or bad.
No, good, in the best way. So Rob, you said C6.
6.
What does that mean?
C6 is your cervical vertebrae, and it's right about where your Adam's apple is.
Okay.
And he was 20. He went to Oregon State University, and they had just won the College World Series. Go Beavs! And it was July 11th, and so it was shortly thereafter. He was standing in his driveway around 11 o'clock p.m., putting his gym bag in his car on Hawthorne, and a hit and run driver plowed into him and then left him. Obviously it's a hit and run. So he laid there for several hours in the driveway of a house he was renting with some buddies until someone at 5 a.m. noticed him bleeding out in the driveway and called police, called an ambulance, and they rushed him in. He broke his ankle, he shattered he tore up his arms, and he broke his neck. He got flipped over the car, broke his neck on his car, and then unfortunately laid there. So the swelling continued for all of those hours. And he was 20, and he was looking forward to hopefully playing Major League Baseball. And that wasn't going to happen. And the doctor said, you'll definitely never walk. You'll never go to the bathroom on your own. You'll never have sexual function. He could move one finger. He had his shoulders, and then he had one finger.
Whoa.
And so he said, well, and I didn't know him at this time.
Right.
And it was right before I took the job in Portland from Rapid City. And it was all in the news because he was a local Oregon State baseball player and who did it. And he said, well, I guess you don't know me very well, because I'm gonna bounce back from this, and I'm gonna beat this. And so slowly but surely tried to start working with, he has like silly putty that he would work to try to get his fingers back. He would have them put the remote on his chest when he was laying in bed, so that he would, like, as therapy, so for him to watch TV, he would have to relearn how to use his hands, and slowly started to get some hand function back. And then about 2.5 years later, met up with this scientist, Dr. Susie Harkema, who was Christopher Reeve's doctor. And she said, we're thinking about starting this program in Louisville where we implant you with a stimulator. We put 16 electrodes on your back and a computer implanted that's about the size of a hockey puck, right, kind of right above your back hip. And I'm thinking of doing. So he was like, okay, when do I start? And she was like, well, it's not ready yet, and you're pretty severely paralyzed, but we'll let you know. And he was in Louisville at the time, and he was like, okay, well, I got an apartment, so I'll be here at 9 a.m. on Monday. And she was like, it's not ready for you. It's not ready. And he was like, okay, I'll be there at 9:30. And so he moved here by himself. He'd never fed himself. He'd never dressed himself, and did therapy for 2.5 years to lead up to this surgery, and got the surgery. And then, let the incision heal. And 3 days after he started therapy, post-surgery, he stood for the first time in 4 years.
Wow.
And he was the first one in the world to have this. And so they didn't know what to expect, and they didn't know what the side effects would be. And the side effect, he regained the ability to sweat. He regained sexual function. He regained autonomic function, the ability to go to the bathroom on his own. These are all side effects that are hugely important to someone who's been injured, who just wants their independence back.
Right.
So that was, I think I met him 6 or 7 years later when he was a guest on my morning show in New York on Pix 11.
Stop. Yep. Also, and hooray for sexual function. That's all I'm going to say. 2 high fives. Boom.
That not sad about that side effect at all.
So wait, when you meet him to interview him, because did you know about him before this interview?
No, I knew nothing about him, and there were picks, the way it was like a 5-hour morning show, and they had a ton of guests every day. And so we were like in a 4-shot, and they pop us up, and the main anchors were like, hey, we've got these guys here coming up for an interview. They're paralyzed, but they shook my hand, and like, they're so strong. You've got to hear this story about this medical breakthrough. One's from Texas and one's from Portland. And the main female anchor goes, Julie, you're from Portland. And they pop me up, and I turn bright red, and I'm like, hi. And they're like, they're cute. Wow, they're super cute and single. Hey, Julie. So it's all on YouTube now.
It's adorable.
The clip of us. And then after, in the commercial break, I introduced myself, and we played the name game. And turns out my brother played baseball against him growing up.
Wow.
Like just the oddest paths that crossed. And it wasn't until we met in New York when he was there to talk about the surgery that we hit it off. And then he flew back to Portland. We connected, and he flew back to Portland, and we kept in touch. In Santa Fe, about 6 weeks later, I was there for a wedding, and he's like, how about I meet you in Santa Fe? This would be our second in-person meeting ever. And so I was like, sure. I missed my flight to Santa Fe. Feeling like such an idiot. I'm like, sorry, hi, new person I really, really like. I missed my flight. So we were going to connect in Denver and then fly Denver to Santa Fe together. So he gets to Denver and stays, misses his flight on purpose.
Oh.
So that when I get to Denver, he's there, and he talked to the gate agent, like, so there's this girl. He tells the story. I really like her. Can you just like shrug your shoulders if she happens to be on a certain flight tomorrow? And the gate agent played along, and so he rebooked us on the flight the next day. And so I get off the flight, and he's like, "Don't go anywhere." I'm like,
Rob.
"Why? I'll see you, Rob." Yep. And he's like, "Just come down this way to the baggage claim." And I see him, I just go sprinting towards him, jump on his lap, and start kissing him. And that was our first date.
Oh my gosh. I love it. He's suave. Rob's very suave.
No, it is pretty smooth. And so he moved into the 154 square foot apartment about 4 months later.
No way. I love it.
And then,
You fell in love in New York City.
With a boy from Portland. Go figure. Yeah, and how weird is this? The Pix 11 studio was in the Daily Mail building, which is where they shot Superman.
Stop. It's too much. I can't. It's too much.
Kind of crazy. So yeah, that's the tangent of why my passion has shifted to
Yes.
Reeve, and then also getting involved with service animal training, because we got a golden retriever in Boston, or right outside of Boston. And so I became very involved with training that golden, and for him to be an emergency alert and mobility assist. So it'll pull him, like if he's trying to get somewhere quickly, he'll hold on to Bear's vest, and Bear will pull if he pops out of his chair, which has happened a couple times. Anyone else, someone falls over, they stand back up. Robbie, his legs don't work. So,
right.
So the stimulator on. So you asked what a C6 was. Cervical 6.
Yep.
About here. He now presents more as a T4, which is right about here. So he has like full big muscles, upper body. He uses a manual chair, not a power wheelchair. But doesn't like have abs still. But when they turn the stimulator on, it's like his abs, he can stand and take steps and move his toes, knees, ankles, hips.
Whoa.
And what they learned from him, they were able to replicate in the next. We're trying to get to 36 participants, because then you can get FDA approval. And the goal is to make this like the pacemaker for spinal cord injury. You get injured, you get this right away. And you get this device to bridge the gap that is broken in the spinal cord injury, because above and below the gap, the damaged tissue, things are healthy. You just need to bridge that. And that's what this does. This amplifies the signal from the brain down to the rest of the extremities, and allows so far everyone to regain some sort of movement.
Amazing. Would you say the marathon was somewhat of your aha moment? Was it like, okay, this is what I got to do. I got to do this.
Absolutely. In a way that I never expected or anticipated. And I had run other marathons, but I had never run them for something larger. And unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but TV started to feel like more of a cage for me, in the judgment, like we were saying, from the trolls, from the people who think you're this or you're that, from the bosses, from the consultants that come in and say, maintain your size. Yeah. And I was much smaller than I am now. And it's like, I can't do anything right. And it just like wears on you. It wore on me. And so then to do something that would help others without feeling so bad about myself all the time because of what other people were saying was the aha moment of the marathon.
Yeah.
That led me to be prepared to leave TV behind.
Yeah, which is, I can't imagine that decision, because I know for a lot of people in TV especially, because we're truly, truly passionate about this business, that decision to finally go, yeah, I need to cut the cord. I need to get out. I mean, it's a scary, scary jump for a lot of people in TV, from what I've heard. And I've talked to other people who were in other very, very successful jobs and decided to follow this passion of doing something completely different. And they were finding themselves at work, at their job, thinking about that other thing that they wanted to do constantly.
Are you reading my mind? Like, I was going to say, did you have a camera in the newsroom? There
Yeah.
were cameras in the newsroom, but I actually gotten a little bit of trouble from my bosses for posting too much about fundraising for Reed, which rubbed me the wrong way. Help people here. And also, as a traffic reporter, just use Waze. Like, get on Google Maps. I just, like, I couldn't fake it anymore. It was just getting to me because I'm like, that's going to be so much better than what I can tell you.
True.
And you know that, like, when you have the stories that you love, and like I can tell you have an amazing curiosity for people, you're passionate about this podcast, about what you do, and it shows in your work. And I think that it was probably showing in mine that I wasn't as passionate about telling you that the expressway has traffic again. It's traffic. It exists always. So whereas, like, pivoting and being able to connect with people and let people know about this surgery and these opportunities, and that there is hope and that things can get better, and became much more of a passion that I would find myself. I have to stay in TV forever because it gives me the platform. Why would, like, it's my duty now to stay in TV, to have this platform.
Okay.
And then it came to pass that about 2 years ago, I ended up leaving the station in Boston. Rob was already living in Louisville. He had moved 9 months prior to get his device in his back replaced. Mm-hmm. And it was just, my contract was up and the timing was right to say, like, I've got to go be with this person. Like, I fell in love with my hero. Let me be there for him. I've missed a lot. I've gained a lot from TV, but I've missed a lot. And I felt too strongly to be there for him and for others, that it made it easier to give up TV and come out here.
Right.
And dedicate myself to this.
Yeah. What does that look like? Dedicating yourself to finding a cure for spinal cord injury. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis? What are you guys doing? Because I know Rob obviously is incredibly passionate about this too. So what does that mean to be an advocate for this?
So when this pre-COVID, when we first moved here, he was in therapy twice a day. And so I would go to every session, and I kind of tried to be a little bit of a mama bear, like getting to know all the physical therapists and taking care of them and bringing in bagels, and then connecting people who knew, learn more. If you want to learn more about this, I'd be happy to tell you. I'd be happy to put you in touch with this person, because I was able to go in and then record the progress and make things for the Reed Foundation to use to promote the surgery and this all of the research that's going on. Mm-hmm. So I kind of got to be their little and an inside glimpse of what's going on as far as the progress of this research, which is major progress. And then he got the surgery in 2018, so we couldn't run the marathon then. And then in 2019, we ran it. I ran it again. He couldn't because he was in therapy. And I was worried that, oh no, now I'm not gonna be able to fundraise because I'm not on TV. And this is gonna be a challenge. And I had 2 other girlfriends whose fiancés are injured, and they ran it with me. And we trained and we fundraised, and we ended up raising more than when I was on the news. So it was like, yay. This is like, you can still do this. I can still do this without having to sell my soul and make myself up every day and kind of play a part that I felt like I was playing near the end of my career. And so now, that's what was happening. I was going to therapy and trying to be a resource for Reeve on the inside, and connecting people who are coming here and welcoming people. And then now in COVID, it's all kind of up in the air. Yeah, therapy has resumed.
Okay.
But people with a spinal cord injury have compromised lung function. And so it puts them at drastically higher risk. So it's been a choice of us and many of our friends who are injured to abide very strictly by the quarantine rules, because we don't want to be the statistic that's like, this paralyzed person got it, and this is what happens if you get it when you're paralyzed.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is Rob at increased danger right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, he and anyone with a spinal cord injury are, and Fraser Rehab, which is where they all participate in rehab, and of course, very excellent measures to maintain cleanliness and sanitary procedures, but we're still just being very cautious. So therapy has been put on hold for COVID because he and the other participants are at higher risk.
Has the fundraising been put on hold? Are you still actively, working on that part?
So a side effect of COVID was we quarantined with some friends in Virginia in the middle of nowhere for a while, and we were kind of getting stir crazy. So I couldn't get a hold of any masks. It took too long. So I learned how to make masks and was like, I'm going to make masks and I'm going to fundraise for Reeve and sell the masks at a friend's store on the Jersey Shore. And we'll donate a portion, cover the expenses to make the masks, and then donate a portion of the proceeds to Reeve. So I've been doing that since then. And that was like, a really fun thing to do. And my parents helped me because I was home in Portland for a little while. And so, yes, the fundraising has continued on a much smaller level. And the marathon is canceled this year, so, which is better. We wouldn't do it anyways because of the risk, because of so many people in one place.
Right.
And then that will continue as soon as kind of things start to get back to normal. And then we're also kind of shifting the focus to I'm still involved with service dogs. And so a litter is coming up soon that we'll be trying to pull the right service dog for one of our dear friends who has epilepsy and needs a new service dog. So that's also been something that's not Reeve related, but kind of in the undertones of being the stay-at-home dog mom.
I love it. I love it. What does the Reeve Foundation say? I guess, what's their feedback been to you and Rob? Because, I look at the two of you and the first word that I think of is just dynamic. You're dynamic all on your own, but so is Rob. This guy has just, he's Superman. He literally is Superman.
Thank you. That's he coming in right now. It sounds like he's coming in from his walk with Bear, but he is a very special human, and he takes this responsibility very seriously. He carries the weight of the paralysis community on his shoulders, and we love them dearly and are so deeply ingrained and connected to them, and will be for the rest of our lives. And at their annual fundraising gala in 2000, they called him the Rosa Parks of spinal cord injury, the first one.
Wow.
To stand up, really.
Yeah.
He is now, and say, okay, here's my body, poke and prod, do what you're gonna do. And he tells a funny story of after surgery, he asked the doctor, so how is this gonna feel when you turn it on? We never talked about that. And they're like, well, we don't know because we've never put it in anyone, but it'll either feel like a bee sting or a gunshot. He was like, oh, well, it would have been nice to know that beforehand, but I would have done it anyway. So we love the foundation and what they do, and they're at the forefront, and there is a cure. I can say with confidence. So, I couldn't say with confidence, like, this is the traffic you should take, because I'm like, yeah, use Google Maps. Use Waze. I can say with spinal cord injury in our lifetime. And it is because of the work that the Reeve Foundation has been pushing and funding and really pushing the envelope to find. And so it's easy. It's easy to talk about and to be excited about it.
And it's because also the Reeve Foundation has these little soldiers out there like you and Rob just pushing, right? When you say passionate advocate, that's you.
If anyone, I feel bad for anyone who gets stuck next to me on an airplane because they're like, so what do you do? I'm like, well, I'll take another round of Diet Coke and so the Reeve Foundation. And I launch into it. And they're always like, I'm going to just pretend like I'm napping now
Right.
because we've heard enough. But I guess we're the minions. Like, we're just in there doing the things that we think would help. And if that's trying to help a friend get her stolen van back, or if it's fundraising on a smaller level to something someone needs, or if it's just getting people masks and or running other races. We did another half marathon, and a girl came up to me afterwards and said, I saw your shirt. My sister was injured recently. I would love to be part of Team Reeve. And it was like, yes,
Awesome.
this is exactly why we're out here. If one person can feel like they're not alone after something so traumatic and life-changing happens, then we have done good work.
Yeah, I agree. And I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And you look back at your career so far, and everything you've done has put you on this path that you're on right now. I mean, if it, you could say your journalism background and your career in news, I mean, that's what makes you such a great advocate, because you know how to get the word out.
Thanks. I think so. And that's kind of this in-between phase that I mentioned earlier. Like, when New York by 30, that feels good to know.
Yeah.
And now I have to dedicate my life to, but it's like, okay, how am I going to do that? Like, how do I channel that for the most good? Do we stay in Louisville indefinitely? And do we open therapy centers so that people can get the surgery and then go do the therapy? Do we keep running races and fundraising? So it is not quite as specific as start in a small TV market, get the next job, So that's new and different.
Sure.
As I am transitioning into, okay, what's the next phase career-wise for me? But I do think that being a journalist has helped hopefully prepare me for what's next, like you said.
Well, I love this path that you're on, and I'm definitely going to keep in touch with you because,
you.
Yeah, I just think it's just so amazing that, again, you had that aha moment and you just said, this is what I'm going to do. And even though you're not quite sure what's next, this is definitely your path, finding a cure for spinal cord injury. I love it.
It is. It absolutely is.
Julie, we're going to wrap up just a little bit because I want to get to the final three, but tell me about your doggies. You have two, right?
Yes, we have two golden retrievers. Bear is 4, Beatrix is almost 3, and B is having puppies in like 6 days.
Wow. Crazy. You're going to have your hands full.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun and something totally new and different. And so I'm heading out to Boston. That's where she is right now with the breeder. So I co-own her with the breeder under her guidance, thankfully. And really, we debated this extensively over COVID, like whether or not to breed. And we just felt driven by a friend who we know has epilepsy and needs a new, we think that this litter could be, because B and Bear are both excellent and predisposed to service. Oh, they both are service. But yeah, so that is the next 2 months. And I even thought, I was like, oh, we should do this interview when I'm like in a whelping pen of puppies, like, hey, but then I wouldn't be able to get a word in that twice. Neither one of us would be, because it would be like, be here, puppy there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's going to be in the next couple months. And then, yeah, who knows?
Okay, well, keep us all posted, please, on what's next.
I will. So great to reconnect.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's get to the final three. Best advice you've ever been given?
Do you remember Fred Penner? He was a children's song guy. Like, I don't know if it was West Coast or but he sang a song that my mom will bring up to me every time I do anything. I'm 37, like pushing 40, and she would, if you try, you can do it. If you try, you can doodly do it. If you try, and it brings in just this sense of fun, the not taking yourself too seriously, and really, if it's New York by 30, if it's stepping and standing again after a spinal cord injury,
yeah,
you can do it if you try.
You can do it if you try. Ooh, that gave me goosebumps too. All the goosebumps, all the good feels with this one. What's your happy place?
My happy place is any body of water with my golden retrievers and a racquetball. They are water dogs, and there are many cities I love, New York especially, but it makes me sad that I couldn't be there every single day. So I was like, what is my happy place? And it's anywhere where I can just let my dogs swim and just be present with them in that moment, which could be really in any city.
For sure. That is true. Yeah, my dogs, when I come home after a stressful day and they run over to me, tails wagging with a treat or a bone in their mouth, there's just nothing better.
Like you've been gone for years.
Yes.
Like thank goodness you're home.
She's back. She returned.
Yeah. Where have you been?
Okay, final meal, final drink. What does that look like?
A final meal is called shushki. It is homemade donuts that my mom makes that in beautifully Crisco boiling water, delicious. It's like very special occasions with a giant cold glass of 2% milk.
2%.
People 2%. Like it's like liquid ice cream. I'm a huge milk drinker. Some friends say that makes me a serial killer. I love it is one of my, and as an adult to drink milk, like with dinner, they're like, what's wrong with you? Love it. That's my last meal.
I'm with you. I am a milk drinker myself. I love milk. It's just too good.
Thank you. You understand.
I do feel you.
So satisfying.
You've been so great. And I'm just going to say, if people want to help or fundraise or get involved, where can they go? Should they follow you on Instagram? Should they follow Re Foundation? Like, how can they get involved?
Oh, I guess I wasn't expecting that question because I've kind of dropped off the social media landscape after many years of forced socialing for work.
For sure.
But I am on Instagram and I still check it and I still read it and I still use that to fundraise predominantly and get the word out. And I mean, if you look at my account now, 2 years ago, it's all selfies of me on TV. I look back, I'm just like, oh, you're so gross. And now it's just all like running and fundraising and wheels and chairs. And so, yeah, Instagram is definitely a way to go, or Facebook.
Yeah.
Or just shoot you. But yes, I'm here for anyone who needs a cheerleader or advice or support. We are here for you always.
Awesome. Best cheerleader ever. If you are listening to this podcast on Apple's podcast or Spotify, please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps other people find us. You can also watch this podcast at ktvl.com or also on YouTube. Just look up Off Script with Trish Glose. One more time, Julie Grauert, thank you so much. This has been, I knew it was going to be good, but you just like blew away my expectations. You are just so flippin' fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much for thinking of me. I feel very special. So thanks. You're the best.
Thank you. You're the best.